Hi, this is Alpha from Money Made Simple. Today I thought I'd start to share some client stories about how money has created problems, but then also solved them as well, and the process that was sort of gone through to get to the solution or the resolution, depending on the situation. So one of the stories I wanted to share with you is it's probably a relatively common one, which is how money impacts relationships. Statistically in Australia, about 40% of relationships are negatively impacted by money and finances and disagreements about money. And it's always interesting when it's always observing from the outside, of course, but when you're looking at someone's relationship, there often seems to be a spender and a saver. And stereotypically, you get the man is more the saver and the earner, and the woman is the spender, which is very, very antiquated stereotype. In my relationship with my husband, we can both spend and we can both save. It sort of depends on the situation and what it is, because obviously he has his interests and I have mine. He would balk at how much I spend on cameras. He's like, I'll just use my phone, whereas I'm like, should I get the $1,700 full frame or should I really go for the $3,400 full frame? So it's just, that blows his mind. He's just like, oh my goodness. Which is why I find it very important that I have my own money, because then I don't have to really have those conversations. So that's that's sort of that's simplifying it quite a lot, though. And one particular example I wanted to give you was a client of mine who was feeling very uncertain in her relationship with her husband. She knew that he had investments and money elsewhere that he was kind of keeping from her. She wasn't able to get the information out of him, and that made her feel quite insecure. She'd also taken a career break to have their child as well. So financially, while she'd been the main breadwinner up until that point, she'd obviously now had to be a bit more reliant potentially on him financially. He was the only income earner, and she was looking at starting to go back to work part-time. And there was just friction. A new baby is immense. It puts such a lot of pressure on relationships. Plus, it also changes the dynamic completely, because as a mother, you suddenly have different priorities. Things are important now that weren't before. Things that were important before are no longer. Everything changes. And I'm not sure that the male psyche shifts at quite the rate that the female one does after having a first child. So there's this time of adjustment, trying to figure out how to make things work again. So she was feeling they were having arguments a lot. It was not a good space, and constantly kind of talking about divorce and the impact that would have on their child and finances and all of that. So we sat down and we looked at everything. And we looked at, does she have a bank account in her own? Basically getting her prepared if she needed to leave, which is not a pleasant kind of thing to look at, but making someone feel safe financially is a big part of kind of safety in the world. It's unfortunately we tend to attach a lot of our feelings of comfort and safety on money. So we sort of tweaked a few things, looked at her superannuation, made sure that insurances that were in place needed to be, beneficiaries that were listed were the correct ones, that were wills in place, it was a will in place, and the bank accounts were around, getting tax returns sorted, like trying to just basically clean the slate. And get things sort of sorted. And what started to happen during that process was as the more sorted that she got, the more comfortable she became in her financial world, the less pressure she felt to apply on her husband as well. And the more open and relaxed she was, the more he reciprocated. So it actually was quite interesting to watch, sort of somewhat from afar, aware of what was going on, and then watching the transition. So from where there was such conflict and lack of cohesion, like they just were not on the same path, to working through her stuff, which then allowed her to focus on other things in their relationship. And then they worked on that, And then by the end of it, they were, I mean, like we all, you know, we have our ups and downs, and, you know, it's not a bed of roses 100% of the time, but you learn how to deal with things, and make sure you keep your own identity as well. Because I think that's something very important for us women, is that we don't just become the wives and the mums and the housekeepers, that we actually still keep our own identity as a human being and understand what fulfills us, and that we keep filling that bucket so that it doesn't get empty and we don't explode as a result, or we lose our sense of identity and all of that too. So watching this all kind of play out was really interesting, and in the end, things just kind of resolved themselves. She still made sure that she kept her financial house in order, and that gets maintained, because a lot of things we worked on, she then put on autopilot, and now their relationship, there's little things that irritate them still, which, you know, that happens, but for a large part it ended up resolving, and now they're still together. This child still has both her parents, and they're happy, and they're able to work through things as they arise without that extra pressure of financial uncertainty. So that's something I just wanted to share with you, because it was quite an important story for me, and I was really happy to be able to be part of it as well. So if you're wanting to get your financial house in order, it can have different outcomes to what you think it might.